Many people ask me, what happens if I die and I don't have a will and I'm married and I have children? So I've got this laid out with these quarters to show you. So this is Joe, the husband. This is Sally, the wife, and they have 2 children. But let's confuse it a little bit and let's say that the children are Sally's children from a prior marriage. Now, this is something that actually happened in my practice. So we had Joe and Sally married. It was their second marriage, and Sally died. They happened to own a home together. Sally owned 50%, Joe owned 50%. And when Sally died, she died intestate. That means she didn't have a will. And so what happened, most people, and what Sally assumed, is that her home would go and would be owned by Joe. Unfortunately, that's not what happens when you die intestate and you have children. So what happened is Sally's 50% went to Joe, the other 50% went to her 2 children. And these 2 children were Joe's stepchildren. So Joe went to the children after they had buried Mom and said, I need to sell the house. And what happened? What happened is the children said, that's great, we'll sign the deed, because keep in mind, they now own 25%, Joe owns 75%. He owned 50, he got half of Sally's interest, which is 25%, and the children got the other half, or 25% of Sally's interest. At the end of the day, when Joe said, I need to sell the house, the children said, that's great, however, we want half the money. And Joe said, but wait a minute, you only own 25%. And they said, well, guess what? We never liked you. We never cared for you. We tolerated you because you were married to our mother. Mom's gone. If you want our signature, you will give us half the money. Suffice it to say, after a number of negotiations, we ended up paying those children 35%. Now, we've discussed family malpractice before, and who committed family malpractice in this case? In this case, Sally committed family malpractice. Sally assumed that her interest would go to Joe. Sally was wrong. And it permanently destroyed the relationship between Joe and the stepchildren because Sally made an assumption that her interest would go to Joe. That is what we try to help you avoid, to make sure that you are in control and the state is not. In this instance, since Sally had no will, the state imposed its will upon Sally. Half to the children, half to Joe, and it was completely against what Sally would have wanted.